Are guns an equalizer? Natasha, you made a comment about guns being an equalizer. Can you tell us what you mean by that?
They are an equalizer, because you could be an old lady, 75 years old, and then some, 20-year-old man that's 6'5", 250 pounds, he can come at you, but you can shoot him.
True that.
That evens the playing field.
Yeah. When did you, because I know you're trained, obviously, with guns, but when did that begin? But prior to being in the Navy?
My whole life, because I was raised by my grandmother, and my grandmother always had guns, so she was really into guns.
And then, of course,
She carried them in her purse.
Did you own a handgun prior to going into the military?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. First thing I did when I turned 18, I bought a gun. My grandma used to, give me her guns too. But first thing I bought a shotgun when I was 18. As soon as I turned 21, I got a handgun.
What's the feeling that you get? Like I've never owned a gun. So what's the feeling that you get when you get a gun? Like are you empowered? Do you feel?
I feel safe.
Control. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I feel safe. I'm taking my own safety into my hands. I'm single. I'm by myself. I drive around a lot at night, and when I have my gun with me, I feel like, I'm on an equal playing field to anybody else that wants to come at me.
See, to me, or what would you say to someone like me who's actually scared of guns? I grew up with guns being for hunting. My family did hunting. My grandfather owned a gun shop that he sold to people who hunted. But as I got older, you hear things on the news. You hear accidents happening in homes, and you just sort of start developing this fear for it.
Well, accidents do happen. And I'm not, I love guns, but I'm not going to tell everybody else that they need to get a gun. Because if you really are scared and you really are afraid of having an accident, then you shouldn't have one. For self-defense, you could still get, you could get a taser. You can get something else. If you want to try to get over your fear, maybe if you take a couple lessons, that might help. But if you still are...
I did that because I still do feel like it's important. It's important to know how to I don't know why, but I have this feeling like it's important to know if there's ever a gun around, I will know how to work
Brandy
it.
Michelle, what do you think? I mean, what are your thoughts just on guns in general? Do you want to have it for self-defense? Do you want to learn how to shoot? Do you know how even?
Not legally.
Okay.
Well, you know what? I guess the biggest thing that comes to mind right now is all of the violence that's taking place across the country. I think about the kids, kids being 14 and 13 years old that have access to gun. Obviously, it's illegally. Nevertheless, there's such easy access. So I guess I'm just curious to know how you feel about that. And if you think that we should have stricter gun laws.
Well, stricter gun laws aren't going to take guns out the hands of criminals. So you have to protect yourself, because by the time the police get there, you could be shot.
That's for sure.
And also, too, another thing, if you have a weapon at your house for self-defense, it's not 100%, but it's much better to get hollow point bullets than it is to get full metal jacket bullets.
Well, what's the difference between the two?
Well, full metal jacket bullets, if they can go through a wall, or say you shoot somebody, they can go through somebody. But if you have a hollow, hit somebody on the other side, but a hollow point, whatever they hit, they shatter. So it's less likely.
Is that the fragments that they're talking about?
Okay.
Well, like when it comes to also who should not have guns, because I know that there's been a lot of talk about who should have them, who shouldn't. I know we're talking about as women, but when you talk about like the mental state of a person with a gun, what are your feelings about that?
Well, I mean, there's laws. Crazy people and people on drugs aren't supposed to have them. But then that's another reason you need to have one, because you need to protect yourself from those people.
Yeah.
One of the things that always concerns me, going back to your comment, was
About kids.
Yeah, I'm having a gun in the home, to me, for that reason, scares me. Where my husband would like to have a whole shelf of guns if he could, but that's my biggest concern, is just my children. And I'm curious if there are courses that children can take to learn proper gun safety, other than like their parent or somebody teaching them. And I don't know anything about that.
That would be most important for the parents. There also has to be a certain respect, because you have to respect a gun. You have to teach a child that, this is serious.
Yeah.
Also, too, you got to keep them locked away.
Yeah.
Because even when I have my friends' kids come over, I take a point to make sure that I put my guns away.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I've had a love-hate relationship, but I grew up in a neighborhood where drive-bys were normal. And I remember I was like 11 or 12, and I was standing in my living room, and a bullet flew through the window and went right past me into the wall.
That's terrifying.
You know, I'm like, I'll never forget it, but I don't remember being afraid of it. You know, I remember my family members shooting guns, New Year's Eve and things like that. So like, I was never afraid of them, even though I knew the damage that, you know, would be caused by them, especially, you know, gangs and stuff like that, innocent people dying. I guess the most important thing for me is just training.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
well, that's what also
education
just kind of
around
even
it.
going back. I
Yeah.
know I touched a little bit on it, but the thing that scares me also are the people that do have access to it. But I know there's like a whole debate now about whether the mental health aspect of it and should they have guns, should they not? Because I think that scares a lot of people.
I do too.
Who's going to actually purchase these guns? And
I do too, but I think that there are a lot of people who should not have handguns that know how to get through
Right.
the process
Yeah.
by being sane enough in order to receive one. And to go back what Natasha said, even if you put these stricter, gun laws in place, what about all of the unmarked or, guns that are out there for sale? I mean, if they
Well,
want a
you
gun,
can't.
they're
They'll get
going
it.
to find
They're
one.
gonna
And also, too, a lot of times, as women, we just watch what's on TV, or you go to the gun store and they try to sell you something crazy. It's like for self-defense, you don't need all that.
Right.
Like, myself, because my military weapon is
So I don't need the
different.
vest and I don't
Yeah.
need the pants. and all that stuff.
I just have a Lady Smith & Wesson 38 revolver, and that's perfect because there's no safety on that. It's not crazy.
Is that what
it's
you recommend?
easier.
I was
Yeah.
just going to
No
ask.
idea
That means.
That is
Yeah.
what I recommend because a lot of time, like a Beretta, all those, somebody can grab it and just,
You have no
take
idea
that
what
apart.
it means. I heard you ask or say something. What, Lady Smith?
Kids.
Yeah, that's the one I should
I always
have.
think of I don't have children now, but if I had children, I'm thinking in the home and I'm sure your husband goes out or is out of town or something like that. You want to be able to protect, your children.
No, never.
So how does that make you feel with maybe having a gun or purchasing this? Let me get it, Smith & Wesson 38 special.
A lady
Lady.
Smith & Wesson 38 special.
For me personally, I would want to go through all of the training,
Yeah.
to make sure that I know exactly how to handle it.
I guess
and
at
do
the
that.
end of the day, knowledge is power.
It is
It
power.
is.
Even with
It is.
kids, doesn't matter what the subject is. If you teach them at a very young age about everything, they'll be less
get it.
intimidated, to talk to you about things or to manipulate things.
So the recommendation is if you're going to get a gun, take a class, learn about it first. We'll be right back.